Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm on Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. Happy Sunday, or whatever day it is that you guys are listening to this. I hope that you guys have had a good week and are preparing for a good week ahead. I finally sat down and looked at my calendar and put in everything that needs to get done, everything that's happening in the next 4 weeks or so, and it's absolutely insane. I think that I committed to a lot of things before I realized what was going to be happening, because you obviously can't predict the future. For instance, next week, Alex and I are going to Maine, and we're partnering with an airline, and I'm really, really excited about it. It's going to be a great trip, but we decided that we were going to take a little bit longer of a trip because we, had the time for it. We had the freedom for it, whatever. We were really excited about it. And then lo and behold, I'm closing on the house on the 3rd. So this trip is like right in the middle of when I need to be packing and getting everything together and, doing everything that needs to be done before you move into a home. So it's a couple weeks before that. And had I known that I was going to be moving, not only just like moving apartments or just like doing a short distance move, but had I known that I was going to be doing a really big move, then maybe I would have done a shorter trip. But hindsight is 2020. So we're going to go and fully enjoy the trip. I'm really excited about that. And that kicks us off for our where are we going? What are we doing? All of that kind of stuff. So going to Maine next week. Actually, I'm going on Monday. We're staying kind of by the water, so I'm thrilled about that because that means the seafood is going to be incredible. We'll be by the water. We're staying in this really cute little cottage. It's going to be a great trip. Really looking forward to it. I'm just trying to get as much done as I possibly can before the trip so that after the trip, I can fully focus on working and packing, because those are going to be my top 2 priorities. Just getting all of my branded stuff in and submitted so that I don't have to worry about doing that the week of the move, and then packing everything that I possibly can, hiring movers, maybe hiring a packer to help me pack, just because there really is so much stuff. And it's not that I'm incapable of throwing things into boxes. It's more so that somebody who is skilled at packing can help me organize things better and type up a packing list, all of that stuff, so that I just know where everything is and I feel more confident that way. So I think that I'm going to go ahead and hire a packer. There's tons on TaskRabbit. I feel like hiring a packer is something that sometimes people feel that they need to do through their moving company, and you don't. You can hire a packer through TaskRabbit, through Angie, any of those kinds of sites or whatever to help you pack. And they have like not only packing, obviously, but I've hired TaskRabbits to build furniture. I've hired them to mount my TV. I've hired them to do old furniture removal, things like that. TaskRabbits can do all of it. It's just any task that you could possibly have, you can hire a TaskRabbit for, and you can kind of find one that works within your budget. This is not sponsored. I feel like now this is reading like an ad. TaskRabbit does not sponsor me yet. Okay, maybe soon I'll have a little something for you guys, but as of right now, TaskRabbit does not sponsor me. I just really am a huge fan, and I've used them for so many things. So I think I'm going to hire a TaskRabbit to help me pack, and then once we get everything packed, I'm going to have to take things off the walls, or obviously the things that need to be packed will be off the walls, but I'm going to have to respackle, repaint, because I did put quite a few holes in this here apartment, except for all of my artwork is hung up by thumbtacks, and that's my business, that's my right. I think that if a thumbtack will hold it, then a thumbtack can hold it. I don't feel the need to bust out the tools if I don't need to. A thumbtack has worked perfectly fine. And yeah, she might be a little bit crooked, but at the end of the day, she's up there, and that's what counts. But I have some shelves over here that we really put up very recently, and so taking those down is, kind of a bummer, just because we just put them up, I want to say like a month and a half ago, but those need to come down. I have some shelves out in the living room. I have I have a lot of shelves in the bathrooms, and so that all needs to come down to spackle all of that, so that's going to be taking up quite a bit of time. That I'll do myself. I don't need to hire a TaskRabbit for that, and by I'll do myself, I mean Alex will do that, the king he is. So that's what is getting done around here, packing, moving, all of that. But I do have a house update for you guys. So last time we talked, so last Sunday, I was telling you guys that I put an offer in on the house and I loved it, and it was my dream home and I was so excited. And I did put an offer in on a house and it was accepted, but the inspection, you guys, and this is what I get, not even what I get. I kind of have been going back and forth about feeling like maybe I should have held off on telling you guys until the inspection and I knew everything was squared away, but I don't do that with my friends, like I don't hold things back from my friends just in case they don't work out. And I feel like the relationship that we have, I don't want to hold things back from you in case they don't work out. I think that a lot of what we talk about here is what to do when/if things don't work out, how to pivot, how to move on to something else, and how to make the best of it. And so that's what I wanted to do with you guys. So put an offer in on the house, it got accepted, inspection went in, and oh my God, you guys, I actually got some really good perspective on this though. I was saying, the inspection was bad and I was really bummed about it. And And then I was going on Reddit to see if anybody else had experience with a really bad inspection, and somebody replied to a poster and they were like, your inspection wasn't bad. Your inspection was actually great. Your inspection did its job. Because imagine if an inspector went in there and they didn't do their due diligence and, you found the cheapest one, the quickest one, whatever. They went in there and didn't find anything. And then you move into this house, which is the equivalent of a lemon, like everything is falling apart. There's cracks in the foundation everywhere. Nothing is up to code. There's roaches in the sewer, and all the things that I'm listing right now are things that were wrong with the house. There were so many issues. It was beautiful, but it was putting makeup on a pig at the end of the day. There were so many problems. There weren't enough smoke detectors, like fire alarms in the house. The foundation was just an absolute mess. The roof, which was supposedly brand new, had problems. The HVAC, she said, was updated in 2020. The HVAC was from 2014. And I just feel like if you're going to lie about something, you should probably lie about something that can't be so easily fact checked. If you want to say you got your floors redone in 2020 or whatever, then that's fine, because there's no way for me to know exactly when you got the floors redone. But in HVAC, I can open the door and I can look. It says it right there, 2014, baby. So I know you're a liar. There's so many things. Like, a lot of the house just wasn't up to code, because I guess when everything was built, years later, things shifted and they just never went in and fixed anything. But what gets me about that situation is that she said she tore the house down to the studs, completely redid everything. It's basically a brand new house, yada, yada. But that simply can't be true, because if you did that, you would have seen when you rebuilt that things needed to be updated and brought up to code. So either you hired somebody who didn't care about bringing your house up to code, which I feel like probably isn't legal and probably isn't, the way that you're supposed to do it, or you lied about doing that. And either way, that's just unacceptable to me. And I think that I just really got a very big lesson from this, because I don't know. I think that when I see women, I just see the best in them, and I think that they would see the best in me. And I just feel like women inherently should be looking out for each other. And while I feel that way, I'm realizing that's not necessarily true. We have no relationship, me and the previous owner of this house, or the current owner. I didn't buy it, but the owner of that house, we have no relationship. So really, I guess she doesn't owe me anything. But trying to sell me on a home, betting on the idea that maybe I wouldn't have a good inspector, or I just wouldn't do my due diligence, or I wouldn't care and I'd be naive. Like, I don't know what she was expecting from me, but it just really was very disappointing that another woman who lived in that house by herself before she got married, whatever, would have me move into a home knowing that I'm unmarried. Yeah, I have Alex and he was there, but like, just having me move into a home that is truly falling apart is a huge, huge fire risk. There are so many things wrong with the electrical. I mean, a huge fire risk. And just having me move into that and not telling the truth, that really was very disappointing and disheartening. And I don't know, I just kind of thought that maybe because we had talked and she knew that I was buying the house by myself, like, I just thought that maybe she would be more honest, and I guess she didn't feel the same way. And so the house is back on the market. But I was looking on Zillow and I noticed that somebody else was under contract on the house, and then very quickly after their inspection, I assume after their inspection, because an option period is 7 days and the inspection is usually done towards the beginning of that option period, so that you have time to renegotiate or you have time to back out, whatever. So you just have more time to make your decision. So pretty soon after that option period, I noticed that the previous buyer backed out, and so it went back on the market. And I can only assume that the previous buyer backed out because of the inspection. Everything else looked great, and maybe it was financing, I don't know. So when I first saw it, I think that I assumed, one time, you never really know. Like, it could be anything. It could be financing. It could be just deciding that that wasn't their house, thinking more about it. It could be anything. But if I go on Zillow and or any of these, home buyer, whatever websites, if I go on there and I see that 2 people have gone under contract and then pulled out, I would start to ask a lot of questions, because obviously something is quite wrong. And so the previous owner listed the house back on Zillow, and it's up there for the same asking price, which we offered lower. And that's another thing that gets me, you guys. So the house was listed for the listing price, and then we offered a little bit lower with a buyer concession. I know that if you're not interested in home buying or just like know anything about it, then this might sound kind of like mumbo jumbo, but I'm going to try to explain it as best I can without over explaining. So we went in a little bit below asking and then asked for a concession. The concession was going to be for a rate buy down. I'm buying the house with a bank statement loan, and because of that, my rate's a little bit higher. I'm buying the house with a bank statement loan because my bank statement statements more accurately reflect my income from this year rather than last year, if that makes any sense. If not, you can totally do research on it. But just when you get a bank statement loan, your interest rate is typically a little bit higher. It depends on your mortgage broker and your lender and all that stuff for what your mortgage is going to be. All of that said, I went in there knowing that my interest rate was going to be a little bit higher. So we are going to do a buy down. And with that buy down, my interest rate was going to go lower for the first year, up a little bit the next year, and then at the final interest rate for the last year. That said, the plan was to refinance in a year. Rates are supposed to be dropping down after November. And so we are going to refinance. It was going to be fine, dandy, whatever. So we are going to use that concession for the buy down. So we go in, we offer a little bit lower, we ask for the concession, blah, blah, blah. She comes back and she says, either you can have the concession at listing or you can have the lower without concession. We counter again, and then we offer a little bit more, keeping the concession, but still under asking. And so that was accepted. So through all of that, knowing what she knows about the condition of her home, and I fully do not believe that she didn't run some kind of inspection before she started selling this home. I don't believe that she didn't know that there were very, very big problems with the house, and that's a whole different conversation. But knowing what I think she knew about the house, it is ridiculous to me that you would counter a very good offer for that home. That is just so insane to me, because what that home is worth and what I offered / what she was listing at was, the difference there is absolutely insane. That house basically needs to be bulldozed and rebuilt given all of the issues with it. I was reading the inspection report and my mouth was just literally dropping. I was scrolling, reading through it, and then I saw a picture of the sewage and roaches in it. Like jump scare, literal jump scare. Oh my God, it was shocking to see. Just and not even like one or two, not that any amount of roaches is cute, but a bunch of roaches in the sewer line. I gagged. It was so disgusting. And so knowing what she knows about the house, just countering a very, very good offer is just kind of crazy to me. Like, I would want to get that off my hands as quickly as possible, but she didn't feel that way. And so the house is relisted. So Godspeed to her, Godspeed to whoever buys it. Maybe somebody's going to go in there and tear it down and actually flip it and do something worthwhile. Maybe somebody has more time, more, money on their hands to really go in there and do what needs to be done. I just feel like if there's evidence of termites on the property, that's not a property I really want to own at this phase of my life. You know what I mean? So all that to say, that's what happened with the last house. And while I loved it and it was so, so beautiful, it just would have been a very silly investment. So I passed on it. So Alex and I flew back to Dallas. If you guys follow me on Instagram, then you saw that I was in Dallas a couple days ago. Alex and I flew back to Dallas to look at some more homes. There were some that we saw, because if you remember, I think I told you guys last week, we saw 12 homes last time we were there. And there were some that we saw that I was like, oh, I'd be happy with this, but I didn't love any of them. So we flew back and we saw 8 more homes. And I think that it was the 3rd home that we walked into, or maybe the 4th home that we walked into, and I fell in love. I loved it. There was not a single thing I wanted to change about it. It was beautiful. It was so open. It was just so nicely done. It was recently renovated, but the previous owners lived in it. So they weren't just flipping it to sell it. They were flipping it to, live in it and then eventually resell it, which is what they did. So everything is updated. There's a pool in the backyard. It has a sunroom. Everything that was just on my list, it has. It is the most beautiful home I saw out of all the homes that we toured. And immediately I was like, okay, once again, I'm going to keep my options open, because I don't want to have to fly back out here again, if this one falls through or if this one goes under contract before we can get an offer out, whatever. I just want to keep my options open and keep my eyes open, and maybe something else is going to make me feel the way that this makes me feel. But we went through the rest of the tours, and the other homes were really nice. I really liked them, and once again, wouldn't be disappointed with any of them. But walking into that home, I was like, oh no, this is the one. And that just goes to show that sometimes things aren't going to work out. Things that you want so, so badly aren't going to work out, because something better is right around the corner. And you have to just keep living your life as if the next best thing is right around the corner. And that's not to say don't be satisfied. There is a point where you need to be satisfied with what you have, right? But when something doesn't work out, you don't think, okay, this didn't work out, and so that's it for me. You have to think, this didn't work out, and that means something is better, and that something better is coming sooner than I can even imagine. That's what I believed. I went in there and I was like, like, you know what? I'm going to keep my options open. And then I found a house that I loved even more than the last house that was so nicely done. And it's funny because I was telling Hallie about the house and I sent her some pictures, and she has a friend who lives in Dallas too. So she sent her friend the house, and her friend was like, wait, no fucking way. That is my ex-boyfriend's sister's house. And I was like, no, there's no way. And so she did some sleuthing and found pictures of last time she was there. And it is the same house just before it was renovated, but literally the same house. Not like the same floor plan, the same home, which small world, absolutely tiny world. Because mind you, Hallie is from Mississippi. Her and her friend know each other from middle school in Mississippi, and her friend just happened to live in Dallas now. And like, what are the odds that I would know someone who knows someone who knew someone, and that was their house, and I was buying that house from them? Like, it could have been anyone. I could have been buying this house from anyone, and I happen to be buying the house from someone who I have semi-close proximity to. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. It's just absolutely insane coincidence. And so that just makes me feel better because I know that these people lived in the house, and Hallie's friend, who I've met, sweet girl, but she's been to the house, she's been to the neighborhood. She said the neighborhood is great, the house is great. And so that makes me really excited. So we put the offer in on the house, and my offer was accepted. We did, I think, 1 or 2 rounds of negotiation, just like minor things, figuring out what we were going to do with concession, buy down, blah, blah, blah. So we went ahead for the offer, and the offer got accepted, and the inspection is tomorrow. And you guys, keep your fingers crossed for this inspection because I love this house so much. The first house, I was like, okay, cut my losses, I'm going to move on. But this house, I think I'd be a little more sad. I know what I just said about if something doesn't work out, the next best thing is around the corner. But you guys, I really want this to work out. So keep your fingers crossed that this house works out. I can't wait to show it to you guys. It is so insane. The kitchen is so insane. I cannot wait to make cooking content in there, mocktail content in there. It's just going to be so much fun. And so hopefully the inspection goes well tomorrow. And by next episode, I'll be able to tell you guys if that's my house or not. And then I'm not going to be able to be there for the inspection because we leave for Maine on Monday and I have so much to get done, which is totally fine. I'm going to have the realtor go in there and take some measurements for me because there are some things I'm going to need to get. I need to get a fridge. I need to get a washer dryer, which is crazy that I've been doing so much research on refrigerators and washers and dryers. I mean, so much research. I know what everyone is saying about Samsung, about LG, about Whirlpool. So if you have any questions about what washer and dryer or refrigerator to get, DM me because I will direct you to all of the links. I will tell you everything that I know. There's so much to know about these things. And so I'm really excited. I went to Home Depot yesterday. I asked Hallie if she would go with me. And we went to Home Depot and we were just playing grown up, which is funny, playing grown up because we actually are grown ups. And I was like, oh, I think I would like this fridge. I think that I would like this washer, but the internet says this one's not good. And so blah, blah, blah. It was just so fun walking around there and picking things out because I have this very, very distinct memory of being in high school and my friends and I, that's what we would do. We would go to Home Depot, we would go to Lowe's, and we would walk around and pretend that we were designing houses. We would pick out paint samples. We would pick out what we wanted for our kitchen. We would look at different things. It was just so much fun. That's what we did to fill our time sometimes. And those memories mean a lot to me. And now I'm actually doing that and it is coming to fruition. I'm picking things out to own them. So that's what's going on with me. I feel like I just rambled so much about the home buying process and all of that stuff, but I really am so excited. And I just wanted to express so much gratitude because I know that every influencer says this when they have an exciting opportunity or when they move or when they buy something, whatever. I know that we all say this, but genuinely, my life could not look like this without the support from you guys, without you guys tuning into the podcast, without you guys following me and watching my videos and listening to me speak and my words and having them resonate with you and sharing them with people. It just means so much to me that you guys would follow along and stick around and just support me in this way. This life that I have, this career that I have, and the way that I get to connect with you guys and the way that I get to learn more about myself and then in turn share that with you guys. I could not have imagined anything better for this phase of my life. I really couldn't have. This is my absolute dream. And I know that I get gushy every episode, and every episode I'm I'm not going to get gushy, and I get gushy, and I'm so sorry. It's just, I love you guys so much. What can I say? I love you guys, and I'm so thankful for you guys, and you have changed my life in tremendous ways. And so I just wanted to express that before we get into the rest of of the episode, this week I've been thinking a lot about what it looks like to change my mind and what it looks like to walk away from things that aren't meant for me and walk into things that are, and what it means to really listen to myself. And all of that is kind of centered around what I like to call the art of the pivot, and how important it is that we learn how to pivot, when to pivot, what it means to stick around for something, and what it means to leave something. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about it because, like I was just telling you about the whole housing situation where I had to pivot and pivot really quickly, I think that kind of got me in the mindset of thinking about this and all the times that I've pivoted in my life. And I feel like a lot of us are kind of in these very transitional phases of our lives where maybe we do have to pivot and maybe we do have to walk away from things or walk into things. And that can feel really overwhelming because what does it look like to actually change your life? What does it feel like to make decisions that are actually going to affect the rest of our lives? And what does it look like to make a decision and then very quickly have to pivot into another decision? I feel that I have a lot of experience in the pivot. I feel that I have a lot of experience in bouncing back very quickly and resilience in that area. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So let's get into it. I feel that the key part about the pivot is knowing when it's time to move on. When I say that, I mean sometimes you're in situations and you get this feeling, this very, very small inkling that something needs to change, that you need to move on in some way, that it's kind of time to walk away from it. And while that feeling can be really, really minuscule, it's going to grow and grow. And I've tried so many times to ignore that feeling. And I have really, really tried to just push past it and say, okay, well, maybe this is just my restlessness, or maybe this is just my boredom, or maybe, coming up with all of these different excuses for why I should just go ahead and stay. And any time that I've had that feeling that it's time to move on and it's not what I actually wanted and I pushed it to stay, it has actually caused me or another person so much more hurt and more pain and more confusion and confliction with myself, because rather than listening to myself, I listened to this idea that maybe I'm just not satisfied enough. Maybe I'm just not happy enough. If I can just lean into being satisfied, if I can lean into just being happy with what I have, then maybe that feeling's going to go away. Because there's a difference between listening to yourself and that voice telling you it's time to go, and just not being satisfied because you're always looking out for the next best thing. There is a very big difference between those two things. How I can really tell that difference is if I am constantly looking for reasons to stay, or I am constantly looking for reasons to leave. If I am constantly looking for reasons to leave, it is often because I am not appreciating what I actually have. If I'm always on the lookout for the next best thing and I'm trying to convince myself that something else is going to make me happier, make me better, push me more, motivate me more, give me better opportunities, whatever it may be, it's often because I am not allowing myself to just sit and be satisfied in what I have. On the contrary, though, if I am looking for reasons to stay, if I'm trying to convince myself, okay, stay for this, stay for that, these things might be bad, but you have these good things, it is often because I am trying to ignore that voice or erase that voice telling me it's time to move on. And maybe it's different for you, maybe it's reversed for you, but the key thing here is listening to, but the key thing here is learning what your cues sound like and knowing what your habits are. If you are a person who habitually is looking for a reason to stay, that might not necessarily mean that it's time to go. That might just be who you are. But I know for myself that when I am actually satisfied with something and I am happy to be in something, then I am not really trying to do pros and cons all day long. I am simply just existing in it. For example, in my relationship with Alex, I am not constantly thinking, okay, these are the pros in our relationship and these are the cons in our relationship, time to weigh it out. And I'm not trying to convince myself that I'm happy, and I'm not trying to convince myself that I'm not. I am simply just existing in it, finding peace in it. I am not weighing out my options because I don't believe that there is a better option for me right now. I'm so happy and so satisfied with what I have. And I think that is a really key thing in relationships. This episode is not about relationships, but I think that relationships tie into everything that we do here, that you can be in a relationship with an incredible partner who makes you happy and fulfilled and loved and listens to you and honors you, all of these great, great things, and still feel like there is something better around the corner. And truthfully, you can always find something else, not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, but you can always find something else if you're looking for something else. I believe that a lot of our relationships fall apart, whether in talking stages or years into the relationship, wherever it may be. A lot of our relationships fall apart because we have so much access to so many people. You can download various apps on your phones, multiple apps on your phones that can connect you with different people, and you can scroll through them and say, "Ooh, I like this," or "Ooh, I don't like this." And it's at the touch of your fingertips. So it is really hard, I think, for a lot of people to feel satisfied and content in what they have when they can always go online and find 10 more people to talk to, 20 more people to go on dates with, whoever. They can always find something else. It's like, why would I be thankful for and rest in what I have if I could always find something else the second this person pisses me off, the second they disappoint me, the second they say something I don't like? Rather than working through the hardships of relationships that are inevitable, it's like, why would I do all that when I could just find something else? But the truth is, there are always going to be hardships no matter who you date. You can date someone who is perfect on paper, and there is something in the actual relationship that just doesn't work. And there are some things also, you guys, that you just have to work through. Sometimes there's miscommunication and you have to talk about it. And what I look for in a partner is someone who can communicate with me, someone who is willing to do the work with me. I don't want someone who is just flying with the wind, right? And they're, okay, the second something is bad, we're just going to break up and we're going to call it. There is a time that you notice red flags and naturally you say, okay, this is actually a red flag. This is not something I want to work through or deal with. I'm going to go ahead and go. And there are sometimes things that are just going to pop up in whatever relationship you're in with whoever you're in a relationship with, because that is human nature. If you found someone that you are perfectly compatible with, you guys never fight, you guys never have disagreements, you guys are always on the same page, you like all the same things, you do all the same things, believe me, you will always find something. And I also find it interesting when people say, oh, me and blah, blah, blah don't fight. It's like, oh, I've actually never had that experience. I think that I do enjoy having a conversation about things that bother me. I do enjoy having conversations about how I can better serve that partner, how they can better serve me. I think that fighting leads to healthy conflict resolution, because how do you know that you guys actually have healthy conflict resolution if you never are in any conflict? You know what I mean? But I also think that fight has a very negative connotation. When you say fight, you think it's this low down screaming brawl, and really fights in a healthy relationship should not look like you guys screaming at each other. That is not what an argument looks like or should look like. I think that if you guys are constantly having these fights and you are screaming at each other all the time, that's a whole different conversation to be had, and probably one to be having with a therapist, whether separately or together. You shouldn't be screaming at your partner. That is not healthy conflict resolution. Refusing to have conversations about things that bother you or things that just really need to be discussed because you want to keep the sanctity of we never fight. It's like, okay, well, at some point you are going to fight. And if you never ever fight, that one fight might end up being this really big screaming match, this really big thing, because there are so many pent up things that you swept under the rug and let slide that are eventually going to come out. Things always come out. And I saw this thing on Twitter the other day and posted it on my story that I want to read to you guys because I think that it falls perfectly in what I'm talking about right here. And it says, gentle reminder, if someone is initiating a difficult conversation with you, it means they really value you and want you in their life, not that they secretly hate you. And what I wrote with it, I said, it's time we all assume that people in our lives love and value us. Boundaries and hard conversations protect that love, not oppose it. If somebody is telling you you did something to hurt them and they really want to sit down with you and have a conversation, it means they love you. It means they want you in their life. It means that they are setting healthy boundaries and clear expectations for their relationship so that you guys can keep each other in your lives. The person who refuses to bring things up with you and have healthy conversations with you is probably the person that's going to text you one random day and say, hey, this is the end. I'm blocking you. We're never talking again. And that's when you get these really devastating friendship breakups and these really devastating romantic relationship breakups, because when you don't talk about things and they come up, sometimes it feels so heavy that the only thing the other person can do is just cut it out and end it. And you feel blindsided and they feel really hurt and there's nothing really to say because there's so much that you've just swept under the rug, and it's like, where do we even start? But it's up to you to decide when it's time to stick around for something and when it's time to move on for something. And the best way that you'll know when it's time is by actually listening to yourself and not ignoring your emotions, not pushing them down, not feeling like they'll just go away, because things don't just go away. Things come up for a reason. Our emotions exist to tell us something. And if you choose to ignore what it's telling you, it's going to manifest in a million different ways until you finally pick up on it and you do something about it. If you find that you are constantly having the same feelings and reactions every single time something comes up, it's time to listen to that, figure out what is this telling me and what can I do with it and what change can I make so that I don't keep getting triggered by the same thing, or so I don't keep having the same emotional response over and over again. You don't need to live an emotional Groundhog Day. When your emotions tell you something, listen to them. And if you want something, you deserve to figure out the way that you're going to get it. And sometimes that means leaving behind what you have right now. I have found that opportunity meets us where we're willing to go. If you are at a job and they've been promising you a promotion for 5 months, for a year, for 2 years, and you're sticking around and just hoping that it's going to happen and it never happens, it's time to look for another job that actually is going to give you what you want. You're wasting time there, and you're wasting money there, and your energy there, because while they're lying to you and saying they're going to give you what you rightfully deserve, you could already be interviewing somewhere else, getting a job somewhere else that's going to pay you more than what that supposed promotion was even going to be, right? You can't stick around for things in hope. You can't just wait for things to reach their potential if they've proven they're not going to reach that potential. Sometimes what I've experienced, and what I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, people will use potential to keep you stuck. Okay, well, I'm going to be, and I'm trying to be, and I might be, and I'm working towards. And that's not to say don't have patience, but also don't be stupid. And I say that with love. Don't allow somebody, a company, a partner, a friend, to play in your face. You know when someone's lying to you, and when you know someone's lying to you because you know better, you can do better. You don't have to stick around just because you've already given them time. Okay, you've given them time, you've learned what you needed to learn from the situation, and now it's time to learn how to leave. The best way to learn how to pivot and get yourself in the mindset of someone who can easily pivot is always knowing what you deserve and always knowing what you want. The minute you realize you are not getting what you want out of a situation, what you deserve out of a situation, you need to figure out, okay, what is my next step here? What can I do about that? If you know wholeheartedly that you deserve something and the situation you're in isn't giving you what you want, you're not going to want to stick around for it. You're not going to stay around and linger. But a lot of times what happens is we don't actually know because we don't get very clear about our desires, our goals, our beliefs about ourselves. We're not very clear on those things. And so we're easily swayed. We're easily convinced to stay. If you don't actually know what you want for your life, you're going to accept a lot of bullshit. If you don't actually know what you want in a partner, you're going to ignore a lot of red flags. If you don't actually know what you want out of a friend, you're going to let a lot of things slide. You know what I mean? If you're not very clear on what you actually want, you will accept anything. Sitting down and getting clear about what you want your life to look like will help you make a lot of better decisions, because once you're firm on what you want, you're only going to pursue things that are going to give that to you. And that is not selfish. And I've said in previous episodes and a lot online that selfish is not a bad word, but I do think that selfish has such a negative connotation, and I kind of want to reframe that and flip that to self-centered. Myself is my center. The things that I want are my center. The goals that I have are my center. I am prioritizing those. I am working towards those. I'm going to achieve those. I am self-centered. I center myself. And I think rather than saying selfish because of the negative connotation that has, rightfully so, I mean, whatever, I think self-centered is how I want to start saying that now, because it is okay to center yourself. It is okay to be self-centered. It is okay to leave situations and pivot away from situations when they are not giving you what you want and what you deserve. And it is not wrong of you to have a very clear idea of what you want and what you deserve. And other people might try to convince you it is wrong. Other people might try to convince you, okay, well, you're asking for too much and you want too much and you think you're this and you think you're that. Okay, you can think that I think whatever it is, but I know what I think. And what I think is that I deserve the things that I want, and I'm going to achieve them whether or not you want me to have them, whether or not you're going to provide them. Because at the end of the day, I can provide those things for myself. You are a bonus. You are not the core. I am the core, actually. So I'm going to listen to myself and I'm going to do what needs to be done. And let me say this, you don't need or want advice from everyone. You don't need or want opinions from everyone. You want advice from people who have what you want. You want opinions from people who believe in you and want the best for you. You don't need to ask everyone to confirm what you know to be true, and you don't need advice from people who have not done what you want to do, because those people are going to be the should have, would have, could have, not that I did, I'm doing, and I will. You know what I mean? It's very different listening to people who are always saying they're going to do something and listening to people who are actually doing it and have goals for how they're going to do more of it or how they're going to pivot and become. Those are the people that you want to listen to. Just because people are offering you advice doesn't mean you have to take it. And it is not rude to not take someone's advice. It is not rude to say, I appreciate you wanting to give me advice, but I don't need it right now. I'll let you know if I do, right? That is not rude. And if they take it offensively, that's their own deal to deal with. That is not your deal to deal with. I think that we really need to learn learn when it is somebody else's problem and when it is our problem. And sometimes people want to make things our problem that aren't. You don't have to carry around whatever they're feeling just because they want you to. That's not your job. Your job is to do what you know needs to be done. Even if you love the job that you're at, even if you adore the job that you're at, keep an eye on LinkedIn. You never know what opportunity is going to come along. Keep talking to people, connecting with people, having conversations with people. When you're at a work event, have conversations with everyone that you possibly can, and have actual conversations that have substance and mean something. Not just, hey, how are you? But what are you working on? What are you excited about? What are you learning right now? Get in touch with those people and really form connections, because you never know when they're going to leave, and then they'll reach out to you later down the line, be like, hey, there's an opening at my job. We're offering blah, blah, blah. I would love for you to come along. I love the conversations we had. I think that you have a really clear vision. I think that you have a great mindset. We'd love you at this company. You never know when that can happen and completely change your life. One conversation can change your life. One email can change your life. One LinkedIn connection can change your life. And we have to start living like that's true, because you never really know what's going to happen. You just have to give things the opportunity to happen. You know what I mean? If you never want to put yourself out there, if you never want to assume the best, then you never know what goodness can come of it. You never want to burn bridges career-wise, because you never know if that burned bridge is going to start burning bridges somewhere else. Everyone knows everyone. I've really learned that. Somebody knows someone who's in contact with someone who went to college with someone who's best friends with someone, and that's their husband, and that's their dad, and that's their mother, and that's their sister, and that's your boss. You really never know. So you just don't want to burn bridges somewhere just because you're really fed up or you're really frustrated. You want to exit things as responsibly and as respectfully as you possibly can. And sometimes that's going to be really, really hard. You don't want to let your temporary emotions get in the way of your future plans. And I've learned if I want something, I just have to ask. I have to ask, and they may say no, and that's okay if they say no, because I'm going to ask again and somebody else is going to say yes. I'm going to put myself in the position for someone to say yes to me, because I might get a million no's, but I'm going to get one yes that can completely change my life. And honestly, at the end of the day, the yes that means the most is the yes for myself. If I believe in myself and I believe I can do something, I believe I can create something or achieve something, make something happen, then it's going to happen, because I have the power of my life. We have to start living as if we have the power in our lives and stop giving it away to people, because when you give away your power, they can decide how much of it you get back and when you get it back, and that's just not how it should go. You have all of your power. If you want something, ask for it. If they're not willing to provide it, leave it. And that's simply that. If a partner, a friend, a job, a family member says no to you, you don't stick around in hopes that one day it'll be a yes. You just find a better yes. Have to stop waiting for things to happen to us, and we have to happen to things. We have to show up and happen to things. That is the way that things are going to turn in our favor. The thing about a no is a no can also change your life. A no can allow you to pivot into being something better, greater, more fulfilled, happier, achieving more than you even thought that you can achieve. A no sometimes is that kick that you need to go and build something better. Sometimes a no is exactly what we need to hear. And while we're so focused on hearing a yes and we're waiting and we're praying for a yes, sometimes that yes is going to leave us complacent, and that no is what we really need to be pivotal for our lives. Stop taking a no as the end. Stop taking a no as the absolute dead end. A no can be an exceptional catalyst into everything you thought that yes was going to be. Sometimes a yes is actually not what you need. So instead of asking whatever higher power you believe in for a yes all around, ask that higher power for exactly what you need. And sometimes exactly what you need is going to be a no. And when you get that no, instead of doubting it and wishing it was a yes, you take it and you create something better from it. The best thing about your mind is that you can always change it. If you go towards something and you realize that's not actually what you want and you want to change your mind, you're more than welcome to do that. And anyone who makes you feel bad or guilty for changing your mind is not someone who actually wants the best for you. Sometimes the best means you have to leave something that you previously thought that you wanted, and that is totally okay. The people in your life should not shame you for that. And if they're shaming you for that, it is often because they wish they could make better decisions for their lives, and they're too afraid, and they're too stuck, and they're too complacent to do it. You don't listen to those people. You listen to yourself. Just because you've always done it doesn't mean it's going to work forever. Maybe it worked in the past, and maybe that fit who you were in the past or that situation or circumstance in the past, but that's not what's going to work going forward. You need to stay on your toes and be willing to shake things up if things need to be shaken up. Okay, you have the power to do that. And whether or not you have the desire is a whole different conversation. But sometimes it's not even about desire. Sometimes it's not about wanting to. I don't want to do some things that I have to do sometimes, but I have to do them in order to get to where I'm wanting to go. And that might feel kind of like tough love, but you can't work for yourself unless you work for yourself. And that means showing up even when it's hard. That means showing up even when you don't want to. Because just because you don't want to do it doesn't mean it doesn't need to get done. And don't hear me say you don't need to rest and take time off and give yourself a break. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that sometimes you just need to do it. And so easily, I don't want to, I don't feel like it, your way out of your ideal, your dream life. And if you want to get there, you have to go there. And sometimes that means you have to pivot. And that's all I have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you sit down and you take the time to get clear about your desires and your goals and your hopes and your dreams, and you actually do what needs to be done to get there. And you have the courage to leave a situation you know isn't meant for you and pivot into something that can be meant to you. And also have the courage to change your mind if you need to change your mind. Okay, I am proud of you and I love you so much, and I'm on your side. Mwah.